I don't know about you, but I love making plans. I love the idea of having something to look forward to obsess over, and to dream about. When I was a senior in high school, I dreamt of what I called the college experience. What my dorm would look like, what lifelong friends I would make, with the people I'd meet there, of experiencing a new city or college town. I was just excited to experience something new. Some of you know that feeling. To rattle off a few, you know the excitement of joining a new school, going to tryouts or auditions, of waiting to find out the year's class schedule because you just have to be in the same classes as your friends, of going out of town during break, or even driving for the first time. New things are exciting. What's something you're looking forward to right now? Let us know in the comments. Unfortunately, my plans changed unexpectedly. I thought I'd be attending a 4-year college in the fall, but ended up living at home and going to community college. I was disappointed. I wouldn't experience the full college experience, and for the next 6 months, maybe a little longer, I moped. I missed my friends, and it was hard watching them live that dream without me on social media. I felt forgotten by my friends and even misunderstood by some of my peers at home. No one understood my frustration. The responses I got from most were that I should be grateful to get a cheaper education, to not have to pay any bills, to not experience homesickness. All very valid reasons, by the way. It wasn't what I wanted to hear. For those of you who have also felt unseen and or are comforting those going through a hard time right now, in this video, we'll be exploring another name of God, El-Roi, and why we can trust him with our problems. And of course, stick around to the end for a life hack to get you through your hard times. Everyone faces tough times, and sometimes it feels like an endless struggle. Maybe your struggles are external. Like me, your plans have fallen through. Maybe you're recovering from an injury or sickness, so sorry by the way, or you've been excluded from something. Or maybe the struggle is more internal. You're experiencing grief, insecurity, anxiety, or fatigue. Whatever you're going through, I know someone in the Bible that might be able to sympathize with you. She's the one who gave El-Roi his name, and her name was Hagar. If you're unfamiliar with her story, let me give you some context. In Genesis 12, God made a promise to a guy named Abram, also known as Abraham, to give him as many offspring as there are stars in the sky and to make him the father of many nations through them. The only issue was, 11 years after this promise, Abram and his wife Sarai, also known as Sarah, still had no kids. They were also very old. Sarai was about 70 years old and Abram 86. So imagine if Meryl Streep and Harrison Ford try to have a baby today. It's kind of hard to be a father of many nations without, children. Well, this couple noticed this as well and became impatient. Since Sarai seemed unable to bear children, she offered her Egyptian slave Hagar to have a baby with her husband. In taking her advice, Abram got Hagar pregnant. Now this is a really odd love triangle that they had put themselves in. And when Hagar realized she was pregnant, her view of Sarai lowered. It says she held her in contempt. By being pregnant, Hagar's authority had been raised from servant to wife/mistress. And back then, a woman's ability to produce an heir would elevate that woman's status and security. Well, Sarai did not like this, so she went to Abram to complain. And what does Abram do? He restores Sarai's authority over Hagar. He handed her back over to Sarai, telling her to do whatever she wanted with her. So Sarai started to mistreat her, so much so that Hagar couldn't stand it anymore and ran away. Would you have run away? I think I would. Hagar's opinion was never considered. No one asked Hagar if she wanted to carry Abraham's baby. Sarai and Abraham tried to strategize a way around God's will, and Hagar was just caught in the crossfire, a victim of someone else's pain. So when others kept dishonoring and mistreating her, she fled. Can you blame her? But then something really cool happens. We're going to read this next part together, but while we read, I want to point out 3 reasons why we can trust El-Roi with our problems. El-Roi, meaning the God who sees. In Genesis chapter 16, starting in verse 7, it says, "The angel of the Lord found Hagar beside a spring of water in the wilderness, along the road to Shur. The angel said to her, 'Hagar, Sarai's servant, where have you come from and where are you going?' I'm running away from my mistress Sarai, she replied. The first thing we can notice here is that the Lord pursued her. So that brings us to our first reason we can trust El-Roi. We can trust him with our problems because he is the God who sees everything. Nothing and no one leaves his sight. He knew where Hagar was coming from. He knew Hagar's situation and what she had endured. He knew why she was running away, and he knew where to find her. In Psalms 139, 7-8, David describes the Lord's presence in this way. Where can I go to escape your spirit? Where can I flee from your presence? If I go up to heaven, you are there. If I make my bed in Sheol, you are there. When we're going through hard times, we can know that the all-powerful God is with us. Whatever we go through, we never have to go through it alone. He understands our hurt, our circumstances, and before we understand what to do next, he's already working everything together for good. What a good God he is. So first he finds Hagar, and then he asks her a question. Where did she come from, and where is she going? A question he already knew the answer to. So why would he do that? Because God wants to engage with us in our suffering. He wants to hear from us. And all of the time, the questions he asks are for our benefit, not for his. Hagar was able to answer the first part of his question, where she came from, but she wasn't sure where she was going. And in his goodness, God gives her direction. So the angel of the Lord said to her, return to your mistress and submit to her authority. Then he added, I will give you more descendants than you can count. And the angel also said, you are now pregnant and will give birth to a son. You are to name him Ishmael, which means God hears. For the Lord has heard your cry of distress. This son of yours will be a wild man, as untamed as a wild donkey. He will raise his fist against everyone, and everyone will be against him. Yes, he will live in open hostility against all his relatives. Now you may be thinking, what? God sent her back there? Although God's will for Hagar was to live with them again, that does not mean that God is asking for all of us to return to toxic environments or relationships. There is a difference between descriptive and prescriptive text. Descriptive text describes to us what has happened, and prescriptive texts offer commands or instructions for how a person should live their life. This one was descriptive. God has infinite knowledge, and there are things he sees that we don't. This was God's will for Hagar's life, and he was asking her to follow it. So that brings us to the second reason why we can trust El-Roi with our problems. It's because he's the God who sees our needs. God knew Hagar needed to go back, but he doesn't ask Hagar to return empty-handed. He offers her actually a couple things. He gives her reassurance that she will always be heard by naming her son Ishmael, which means God hears. By doing that, he reminds her that she has a voice. He also blesses her with offspring and promises her security by making her the mother of more descendants that she can count. And lastly, he promises a new future for her family. That Ishmael would be like an untamed wild donkey. Now, they may sound a little strange to us, but to Hagar, an Egyptian slave, that meant that her son would be free. Like a wild donkey who goes wherever it wants, her son will be able to go wherever he chooses. God gave Hagar a hope in a hopeless situation. And God wants to give us that hope when we're going through problems ourselves. And that hope that he gives us is through Jesus. By following Jesus, we have the assurance that nothing can separate us from the love of God. Check out Romans 8:39 if you have time. Nothing we're going through, nothing we've done, nothing that might ever happen to us can change his love for us. We can also find freedom in Jesus. Just like how Hagar's son Ishmael would come to experience freedom like a wild donkey, we experience freedom from sin by putting our faith in Jesus' work on the cross. I'm grateful that we have a loving God that we can turn to whenever we need help, and he is always faithful to provide. So here's where Hagar's story ends. In verse 13, it says, therefore, Hagar used another name to refer to the Lord who had spoken to her. She said, you are the God who sees me. She also said, have I truly seen the one who sees me? So that well was named El-Roi, which means well of the living one who sees me. It can still be found between Kadesh and Bered. So Hagar gave Abram a son, and Abram named him Ishmael. Abram was 86 years old when Ishmael was born. The last reason why we can trust El-Roi with our problems is because he values us. He wants to know us in a personal way. I don't know if you noticed earlier, but when the messenger spoke to her, he called her by name. To Sarai and Abram, She was only referred to as Sarai's Egyptian slave or Sarai's mistress, but to God, he saw past those societal labels and just saw Hagar. Verse 13 reveals something also about this messenger. This wasn't just some angel who was talking to her. It says she used another name to refer to the Lord who had spoken to her. That means that the messenger that she was speaking to this whole time was God himself. It doesn't get more personal than that. The Lord knows everything about us, but his effort to know us in a personal way shows us how much he values us. Back in community college, I felt left behind, but God assured me I was right on time. I was exactly where I was supposed to be, because through that season, I discovered how to have a relationship with Jesus. With all the extra time that I had on my hands where I wasn't living the college experience, I started reading the word for myself and fell in love with who God is. And the funny thing is, I didn't even finish that mathematics degree I was going for, but he knew that though. So what's something that we can do to remember that God sees us this week? Well, a good friend of mine and I were talking about how God has gotten us through the toughest times in our lives. And we both mentioned our mantras, a statement or phrase that we repeat to ourselves frequently. I particularly loved hers and wanted to share it with you. It's really simple, but there's so much truth in it. It's this: I can trust God with this. This week, if you feel hurt, lost, or unseen, I want you to remind yourself of who God is by praying this prayer every morning before you start the day. Here it is. El-Roi, thank you for being the God who sees me. Help me to trust you with my life today. Remember, you guys, he sees everything. He sees what you need, and he values you. He is El-Roi. He sees you.